take a minute and approve the minutes. Did everyone get a copy of the minutes and read through them? It is so nice having video to pull the minutes from, I'm sure, but they're long, and we used to have 2 pages of minutes, and now we've got a lot of information. I hope you've had a chance to look at it. So I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes. Is there a second? Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded to approve the minutes. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Special funds review, Michelle Nee. We kind of saw some of them.
Yes, I went through it pretty quickly, so I do have a PowerPoint that has a little bit more information that I will go through with everyone. Let me get back to Zoom and share. Too many things open on my computer right now. Okay. All right. So you did hear quite a bit about these when I was talking in the previous during the board meeting, but I wanted to give you a little bit more information about each of the grants that you will see in the budget. I shared with you the preliminary estimate for our SIA grant. The Student Success Act was passed by the Oregon legislature in May 2019. The funds are generated through the Oregon CAT tax, so the corporate activities tax. Businesses pay this tax every year. And the funds can be used for 2 purposes: meeting students' mental and behavioral health needs, and also increasing academic achievement and reducing academic disparities, with a focus on students in these particular focal groups. As I shared before, our district's focal groups are students with disability and our students navigating poverty and homelessness and foster care. These are our largest focal groups in the district. Just to go over quick with SIA, the investments have to focus on either class size, well-rounded education, instructional time, and health and safety. Within the grant are strategies. I shared these earlier, but it's to create a culture of safety and respect for all of our students, and also support their social, emotional, and physical well-being. Some of the key investments are our social and emotional learning coordinator. The grant pays for 2 school psychologists. We now have 7 school psychologists in the district, as well as 11 skills trainers to support behavior and in our schools. Second strategy is around ensuring instructional materials and tasks are appropriately challenging and supportive for all of our students. Key investments here with a well-rounded education are elementary STEAM teachers. So that's our science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics teachers in elementary. This is a team of 3 teachers that go around to each of our elementaries to teach science and just have a lot of fun with our kids as well. Materials for STEAM, and then also purchasing books for our classroom libraries at all of our schools, and our wonderful book vending machines that students have the ability to get tokens and get a book that they can take home with them. Third strategy is systems and interventions to identify and remove barriers to graduation for all of our students. Key investments here: 7 special education teachers. The grant pays for 30 special education instructional assistants, 2 elementary music teachers. So we do have elementary music at all of our elementary schools now full time. 5 additional middle school teachers. And this is where our woods teachers, so our woodworking teachers at our middle schools, our art teachers are paid from this grant as well. We have elementary and middle school TOSAs. A TOSA is a teacher on special assignments. Our TOSAs are there to assist the principal, help with behavior, work with students on helping them get regulated again and what skills they need to be able to access class a little bit better when they're having one of those emotional days. And then we also have one of our high school health and wellness teachers is funded from this grant. The fourth strategy is that making sure we have the tools to support academic success for our students. And this is where we invest in paying for before and after school programs, electives. So we support our music programs, our art programs, the theater program, the band at the high school, and other and robotics. We have robotics at elementary, middle school, and high school now, and our robotics team has even gone to national. So our high school team. And then we are also offsetting student fees to help our families to be able to not have to pay for things at school, and including all of our elementary schools. All of our students are provided with their school supplies. We are no longer sending a list home with parents asking them to purchase that list at the store when all of us as parents were wandering around the store trying to fill our basket. So just to help our families out. Early literacy grant I shared with you earlier as well. I shared with the board. This is the preliminary estimate is a little over 400,000. This came into play in 2023 from the Oregon legislature. They established early literacy as a top priority. It is also Governor Kotek's top priority. Hence, in her suggested budget, additional funding for early literacy. The goals are to increase early literacy for our children from birth to third grade, reducing those academic disparities for student groups, increase support to parents and guardians to help them partner with the schools to help their children with literacy, and also purchasing curriculum, research aligned curriculum. We are in the middle of a pilot for our new ELA curriculum for elementary school. So next year we will have be utilizing an updated or actually brand new curriculum. We will know soon. It'll be brought to the board soon. I did note at the bottom, the governor's recommended budget calls for an increase in these funds. Some of our investments right now, the 2 district literacy coaches, professional learning, phonics and literacy materials, and intensive elementary literacy summer school, which will be taking place in July this year. High school success is measure 98. Our preliminary estimate is 1.4 million. Over spring break, we did receive an email that that amount was $77,000 higher. So we had budgeted and estimated at that amount. And then we received an email that the governor's recommended budget was suggesting a reduction in these funds. So we were encouraged to budget at this level in the event that it is reduced in the governor's budget. So we reduced our budget by $77,000. This is funded by ballot measure 98 that passed in November of 2016. And the intent is to improve student progress toward graduation, increase graduation rates, increase college readiness, college and career readiness. And we have to focus on dropout prevention, CTE, and college level education opportunities. This is just a few of the things that we are investing in. The 9th grade smaller learning communities, the high school graduation coach, summer transition and credit recovery courses, 2 additional high school counselors, our automotive teacher, and then CTE equipment and supplies, and then our P20 pathways coordinator that's split with UCC. Then I just put some information in here around Title I. I did not change the date because I know you'll see here that it says 24-25 because we do not have our preliminary estimates from the federal government yet for our title funds. So we are budgeting right now based on this year's allocation, in the hopes that that is what we get, but we also know that there could be some adjustment there. So everyone knows, for Title I, it's to make sure that all children have the opportunity to receive a fair, equitable, and high-quality education. And it provides financial assistance to districts and schools who serve a larger population of children experiencing poverty. So we do have 6 Title I schools for next year. Our 6 Title I schools are our 6 elementary schools. This is the current percentage of students in those schools that are students of poverty. This is based on SNAP benefits now. It used to be that parents had to fill out that application every year to identify if their income level was below the poverty level. Parents are no longer asked to do that. Now, this percentage is strictly based on SNAP benefits. So these are our schools that receive additional funding through Title I, through having a literacy specialist, having additional IAs to help support our students who are struggling in reading and math. We also fund some of our TOSAs through Title I. We have a pre-K classroom at Green Elementary where the teacher and the IA are paid through Title I. We have our homeless liaison that's partially paid through Title I. We also have to give 1% of our Title I funds to our schools that are identified as Title I for parent and family involvement activities. And then we also can utilize it to pay for professional learning. So I just hit the bigger grants that we have. I mean, we do have Title II and Title IV. We know Title IV is going to, and at this point, will stay the same. Title II, we don't know for sure, but Title I and Title IV are in law, basically. And so that funding will be coming forward from the federal government. We don't have that amount yet. They're saying it's not going to be cut, but we don't have confirmation of that yet. Title II, which we utilize for professional learning, that one is unknown at this point if it'll be moving forward from the federal government. Anyone have any questions?
One Title IV already been out in Congress. And at least for the 25,
go for it.
25.6.
So when the joint House and Senate, federal House and Senate approval for the debt limit happened 6 weeks ago, I think. The debt limit raise that happened federally, it did lock in, that locked in Title I and Title IV. We don't have an allocation yet, so we're not sure if the allocation changes, but we've been told we will receive IDEA funds. So those are our funds to support students that receive student services, Title I and Title IV. Out in to Michelle's point, we don't know about Title II and III. We're not sure about that. This is late for not having an estimate yet, so we're not sure what the funds will be, but we've been told that we will constitutionally have funding for IDEA, Title I and Title IV. We don't know the number yet, so we've been in contact with a couple of people statewide and federally that the recommendation now is to look at current year's data and plan for that. But to Chair Schofield's comment at the beginning of last meeting, there is a measure of uncertainty that we haven't seen in some time for federal dollars. There's quite a bit happening in the litigation world right now. But I do believe there will be an allocation of IDEA, Title I, Title IV. We don't know how much, and I to Michelle's point, we're hopeful we'll see Title II and Title III funding, but we don't know about that. Is unknown at this point. That also is part of the litigation right now to determine about allocation right now. So I think there's differing of opinions on that.
we look over the last several years, what have been our graduation rates? Do you see some trending up? Ups and downs? In the last 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, whatever?
We're done with this? Okay, very good. We have two kind of published numbers of graduation rate. There's really three things actually there's four things we're looking at. So we do key in on, there is high in our district, high data that's correlational to ninth graders being on track for graduation. That measures you can earn actually 7.5 credits in your first year at Roseburg High School. You need to have at least 6 to be on track. Graduation requirements are currently 24. So that's one of the areas we're looking at. So we also take a look at the disaggregated data with, say, CTE and graduation. So we also look at, for our CTE courses, what is the graduation rate relative to the overall graduation rate? I'll talk about our graduation rates in a minute. And then we also have, there's a Roseburg High published graduation rate, then there's a district rate, and that rate's a combination. It's combined with Phoenix. And so those rates are variable depending on if you look at the district rate or if you look at Roseburg High rate. If we talk about Roseburg High School specifically, the graduation rate, we have Jill down there. Hey, Jill, how are you? I think the graduation rate, Jill's last year was about, we're at 90%. Is that right, Jill?
We were at 89. I was hoping
89.
for 90, but just we're at a little over 89.
Yeah, so I think over the last 5 years, we've been somewhere between 89 and 80 on the overall graduation rate. If you look at CTE, if we disaggregate that right now, we look at CTE, for example, there's been a higher graduation rate for students involved in CTE courses. We do think about graduation, thinking forward about where our current ninth graders are. That's something we've been looking at. And those numbers have actually, they've tracked pretty closely. We did see a dip during the COVID years, but we had dips in general with just there was kind of some overall things happening there that I think have impacted. So that number, and I will say a couple things. Graduation rates across the state can be highly variable depending on the interest that a board or a district puts into that. There are large high schools across the state that if you're not on track for graduation, you go to the alternative school so that we make sure that we keep the graduation rate high at the comprehensive school. There are districts that have special programs, for example, that you might have students with special needs that are counted differently, for example, for graduation. I'll say here we have a strong expectation that our students perform, and you need to do the work. You need to show up and do the work to graduate. And so, so there's that piece. We also count all of our kids here. All of our kids count in this. We want them to count. They should count. And so, we'd really like to see that number be at 90%. The goal is to have 90% and then to have nearly 100% 5-year completion rate. There's a 4-year completer rate and a 5-year completer rate. So it's ranged somewhere between that 80 to 90%. And I feel confident we're trending up in that direction to be in the 90 or 90+%. It does count, medically fragile students that have, significant cognitive delay or challenges. And we have students that in our transition program, they're in the 18 to 21-year-old range. And we still have high expectations for all students, but those students do count in that number as well. That help, Tom? Okay.
I guess quick follow-up
Yep.
question. What's, if you look over the past 5, of course, how long have you been here? 5 years?
This is year 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what I would refer to as the wealth gap.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, this is a very tough rural area. Have you seen the haves and the have-nots? Have you seen that gap widen into what we can provide, what students have as far as resources to do the best they can on their part for their education?
And I think the thing we talked about earlier, I think identify the fact that we definitely have gaps in our community in terms of experience, right? This is it's very economically diverse group. I mean, if you go to any of our classes and by the high school for a day and visit, I mean, Mickey taught there for years, you'll have students that on a spring break are going to be in the Cayman Islands, and some students that will have needed to work to make sure their family can pay rent, right, and watch their kids. So what we're trying to use with these grants, actually, I mean, the formula we've really tried to apply at our schools is we have to reduce the access gap. The gap can't be dependent on, like, we said before, your zip code, your parents' income. We have a strong belief all kids can learn, but you have to make sure, we have to make sure when we think about, we had to rethink some policies around some things, like, COVID reminded us of a few things. We said, hey, we can get Chromebooks to everybody. We realized Wi-Fi, for example. So we had to just think differently, right? The way we do homework maybe has to change because some people have a mentor and two parents at home, and some people don't have a place that's quiet to do homework, right? Because there's many people in one room. So we're trying to spend this grant money to increase access, and I think that's intentional. At the same time, we tried to make sure with things like offsetting the costs. I talked to several parents over the last several years before we made the decision to offset the costs of, say, sports, where a parent would say, I mean, I've got 4 kids, but I can't spend $225 a sport. My kids want to play or do whatever, robotics, football, whatever it might be. So we're really aware of that, and we strongly believe this, that your situation that you're in, and we don't talk about, we don't have poverty kids. We have kids experiencing poverty. We don't have special education kids. We just have kids who get services. So we're trying to match that. And what we found, and we have a strong belief in this, all our kids can read. We need to believe this as adults. We can get there. All kids can graduate. But we do see at times a level of apathy. We do see at times a level where sometimes it's even parents that aren't that excited about, getting a kid to school. And so we're trying to make sure when we talk about how to reach out to families that the dollars we have, they need to be more holistic, so that it's about oftentimes about student success, and that sometimes involves family success. And there are some real difficult situations that families live in. There's some tragic things that happen in our community. And so when we think about, it's interesting, as Michelle was talking about, the goal of the state, we are expanding that goal to really make sure kids have a future, not just graduate with a plan. They should graduate with a job, graduate with a career, graduate with a plan to be successful here. So the goal is to really break that generational poverty we see. And so our hope is that with this is, even when we have students who are experiencing poverty, you can come to school, it's the best meal you get, you're taken care of, and hopefully when you graduate, you have a plan to make sure that you can be a contributing citizen, have a job. And so that wealth gap that a lot of our kids do experience, and it's that we believe what we have for our kids can disrupt that. And so maybe the next generation, we have less of a wealth gap because we've raised that up kind of the bottom up. So.
Somebody is going to talk to us about major.
Thanks. Just gonna highlight without slides. It's not that colorful. Some of the projects, what we use our major maintenance funds for, there is a 400 fund group, and it does our Senate Bill 1149 energy efficiency funds. When we receive seismic grants, we put it into a 400 fund, and then we have the regular transfer that we make to our 404 major maintenance fund. That is, as Danielle said earlier today, in response to a question, that is for our planned and unplanned maintenance expenditures. Lately, we've used a bit of that money to help make improvements at the building in the area of our seismic grant. Our seismic grants are to only be used for seismic enhancement, and they're currently limited to about $2.5 million a piece. And a lot of times it just makes sense to also replace the roof. Now, that may or may not be covered by the $2.5 million. So that's the bulk of what we've been using it for recently. We did just complete in fall of 24 the seismic enhancements of Eastwood, which were for the multi-purpose room and an adjacent building. We also used some district funds to the covered walkways were needing some extensive repairs. We did that, did some roofing. We also did a seismic enhancement of Winchester Elementary School, and that focused on the gymnasium and part of the library building that you see there. We did do out of district funds, some roof replacements there and some other enhancements, including the addition of wolf paws in the concrete that we had to pour. I had to add that because my idea is cute. Anyway, so currently we do have an application in for Sunny Slope Elementary School for the next round of grants. We should hear about that if we are successful in the next few months, and that would seismically enhance their gymnasium area. And the next, oh, that's our application we have. Our next project for which we have received funding is the RHS VOTEC East. The VOTEC building is large enough that it cannot be seismically enhanced with just one grant, so we split it up into two. The VOTEC West would be the next application process that we would go through after Sunny Slope. And it is a much more extensive, it'll cost the district quite a bit more. Sometimes we spend anywhere up to about $500,000 to enhance the seismic grants. We need to, as a district, save about $1.7 million for the RHS VOTEC West. It has a very interesting roof structure that does need to be replaced. And that is within the major maintenance fund. So mapping out our planned expenditures, we do have those funds, even if we have the 1-year reduction transfer to that. It just might kind of hold back on some of our normal summer projects. Every summer, we try to do some flooring, asbestos abatement and repair. Little projects like that. Sometimes we also use the funds for additional security cameras and controlled access is our most recent planned project for that. With our beginning fund balance of $3 million for next year, that with a $1 million transfer to the fund for next year, and hopefully we go back to the 1.5, we should be able to save up for that VOTEC West roof. That's about it. Yeah.
Over the years,
Oh, you ask me this question
I know.
every time. I do.
That we've received for our.
It's in the
seismic
neighborhood of
projects.
$20 million
That's a lot.
from the, yes. We've made enhancements in the about 2005 in the Commons building at RHS. And since then, we've done the main gym. We've done major portions of Green Elementary, Fullerton Elementary, the gymnasium area at Melrose, enhancements throughout Hillcrest. We did the gym and multipurpose rooms at Fremont, the multipurpose room at Joe Lane, Eastwood, Winchester. That's about all I have, unless you guys have some questions about our major maintenance fund group.
Actually, unrelated question. The summer school that happens in July, is it in a building that has air conditioning?
This coming summer that we're doing. We have summer learning in Hillcrest. Hillcrest does have air conditioning, but then we also have it at Sunny Slope, which does not. And we also have it at Winchester, which does not. And then we have it at the high school, where the majority of the building portions do not.
Have you seen those participation numbers over the last 3, 4, 5 years increase? Yes, yes.
I mean, a couple of years ago, sorry. A couple of years ago, we had funding from the state for summer learning. That was specifically, so we had much larger numbers then. But now it's funded through the early literacy grant. The Winchester Summer School is funded through the SSA grant. And then the high school summer school is paid for out of High School Success Measure 98 grant. So, but yes, our numbers have increased.
It is worth noting that they made a really interesting, it wasn't a legislative choice, it was more of an administrative choice. So we've had actually some really robust summer schools have been great, actually. Great feedback from parents, by the way. I probably received 100 messages from parents about kind of the experiential learning kids had, but we were able to do some really cool things. They made a decision a few years ago to change the model to take I think it's relatively random. They had a model. I asked to see how they came up with these numbers. I never did see that, even though I asked a couple times. But basically they took all of the money allocated for summer learning and gave it to a set number of school districts. And you had to rank by need. And we ranked toward we were like in the 40th percentile of need, our district was. And I remember it's a previous district that I worked at that received funding. And I was a little baffled by that. But we have been advocating that there's a wider distribution of dollars. So we do have some funds to do summer, but some of that's come through grants that we're working on, and some of the grants that Michelle identified. But our numbers in summer school, we could do way more, undoubtedly could do more if there was funding for summer. A few years ago, we worked with Tobias Reed when he was Secretary of State, and we had 2 years of really adequate funding to effectively extend the school year. It was like a semi-extending the school year. And the data was, we shared this with the board a few years ago, really remarkable in terms of student attendance. Actually, credits earned were remarkable as well. So we continue, and this is a public meeting, so I'll continue to advocate that there needs to be more intentional and a wider distribution of districts that receive the opportunity to do the summer funding, the summer programs needed to make sure that we don't have the summer slide that really does happen. I mean, without summer funding, we've seen for years a situation where you're really impressed with the growth and achievement kids have had by the end of May and beginning of June. And oftentimes it can be till October and November to get back where you were with students before they left. And so the summer programs have been really, really key in that. Our main focus is around credit retrieval and literacy right now. And it could be more than that if there was adequate funding.
Nikki, we actually had applied for and received Renew America Schools federal grant funds. We were going to improve the air quality at Eastwood and Jolene, but being that's a federal grant, it's currently on hold.
If not, we're going to proceed to committee. Some questions and
pulling them up now. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. There were some questions about the DLC, particularly the increase in costs. We did have the Emerging K program in previous years, but because the needs have changed with students, that program has been turned into another DLC. And so that's what those rise in costs came from, as well as increased staffing for the needs.
The general fund went up by about 3 million. That seemed a little surprising to some people.
Thank you. And that was just attributed to our estimate of the state school fund being at 1136. We did have some slight increases to our local revenue. Another factor was that our fund balance was increased to address the PERS as well as the UCC transfer. We had some health services increase. We did add an FTE for one-on-one support for a student with disabilities. We also had an increase in our contracted services because we have a nurse that we contract for also another student with one-on-one medical services. The 4150 allocation in the general fund. It was originally, so generally in the general fund, we do not allocate in that function. It was allocated in the previous year due to the softball field expenditures. That was the exception. So what you see in the budget is just the historical charges from that. In our 283, I don't know what the fund, it's our rental properties. We had a $300,000 decrease in the current year, and that's because the district purchased 2 properties in our current year, and so we depleted that fund balance. We don't expect to start with the fund balance next year.
For the people that don't know, the district has purchased the majority, all but one at this point, of the homes behind Roseburg High School with the idea of doing potentially either agriculture or sports fields. And we actually have achieved one of those with our softball field. Exactly.
I want to thank Danielle, and I'm sure Cheryl had a little hand in it. She has always have her hand in it. For the questions that particularly that Keith and Tom sent were very good questions. And I think they did, you know, if you didn't get a chance to read those, they spent a lot of time answering those questions, and thank you. They were very thoughtful and thorough, and the questions were very good too.
That submitted questions, were you satisfied with the answers? Do you have any further discussion you want to, or questions you want to ask?
Mr. Chairman, the questions I had were some for clarity, some for additional information. They were wide ranging throughout the budget. I thought they were very sound answers and understood everything, and I don't have any concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Any further discussion about the proposed budget? Pretty quiet out there. Then if we're ready, and it sounds like we are, I would entertain a motion to approve the budget and the tax levy. And what we would ask for whoever wants to make that motion to use the handout, because it has to be approved properly, because it becomes a legal document in the tax levy process. So please do that. So I would entertain that motion.
I can do that. Are you doing it? Keith?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Be famous. I make a motion to approve the 2025-2026 proposed budget as presented in the amount of $133,941,774.10.
Is there a second? It's been moved and second to make a motion to approve the 2025-26 proposed budget as presented in the amount of $133,941,774.10. Furthermore, I make a motion to approve the permanent property tax rate in the amount of $4.0327 necessary to balance the 25-26 general fund budget. All those in favor of the proposed, yes.
We had the first motion, we didn't have the second one.
Oh, we didn't hear the second one?
So by your reading it, it could be a motion and I would second it. So then we can act on both.
So be it. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, the motion is passed, both of them. Thank you, Keith, for that correction. I thought I heard that, but I didn't. Well, There is no next meeting. We recessed our last meeting. We're not going to recess this one. Do I hear a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I'll motion to adjourn.
Second? We are adjourned. Thank you all.